Last week we reflected on some approaches, attitudes that could help us to live with the current moment of a pandemic. This week, the sub-themes of the homily will, in a sense, be what it is we need to avoid in a pandemic. And hopefully by the end that will be a little bit clear that that's what we're trying to unpack. Today's gospel is one of the more familiar gospel stories for the Christian family, the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes. But unlike other gospel stories, it has a lot of, if you want to say, grayness in it. In the raising of Lazarus from the dead, it's sort of a dramatic, clear action that takes place. In the one moment, Lazarus is dead, and then Lazarus is alive. At Cana, you have a jar full of water, and then it's a jar full of very good wine. So it's very clear you go from here to there, and it's like, yeah, that's the miracle. Dead, alive, water, wine. This story, though, doesn't have that type of clarity to it. For you start out with a few loaves and fishes, just a few. You feed 5,000 plus folks. And then there's leftovers. Lots of them. So you go from a little and a lot of people fed and leftovers. There is no explanation. You use the word, the title on the story is multiplication, but it's like, how do you move through all these crowds and eat food and then you end up leftovers? So over the centuries, one of the things that spiritual writers, homilists have done with stories like this that aren't that quite clear is to create allegories, analogies, to try and open it up. So they're not meant to be literal explanations, but to be evocative invitations to look at the story from different angles. Which is a long way of saying, I would appreciate it if you don't write the Vatican to say, guess what, Father Place this week had a new explanation of the loaves and the fishes. We okay? We're not going to do that? We got all these folks on the camera, but because you do that, I'm toast, okay? So as I thought about this story and tried to see, how we can get inside of it, these folks knew that the word went out that Jesus was going to be in the area. They, in a sense, chased him down. And so it's likely, possible, that when they left home, they brought some food with them. I mean, who would travel and go out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, there were no McDonald's on the corner. You'd bring something with you to eat. So what if, having heard Jesus preach, and the basket goes out with a little bit of food, people look inside and say, it's not going to be able to feed everybody. And everybody takes a little bit of what they brought and put it in the basket. Everybody took a little bit of what they brought and put it in the basket, so that by the end, the baskets were full. The baskets were full because everybody gave a little bit. That's a miracle. A miracle. If we take that allegory as an invitation, I would propose what it says to us as the Lord's disciples, baptized, confirmed in the Spirit, God's people in the world, that you and I are called to be that same miracle. We're called by the way we live to so give that there is more, that there is a multiplication of love in the world. Think of it. You and I are to be the miracle of multiplication of God's love. To help us understand how we can be that miracle in this moment, this pandemic moment, I'm going to use 3 counterpoints. 3 counterpoints to help open up our imagination to try and grasp what does it mean for us to be multiplication. First counterpoint: tightened fist or open hand. Tightened fist or open hand. You know, our world right now is one in which we have experienced civil unrest. We hear of violence in cities, and we experience in our own life the tensions of a society that is fractured as it hasn't been, polarized, deeply felt positions that seem to find difficulty in dialogue. And then we have the fear of a disease. So it's easy to understand that as we look towards the world, we become more, we pull in, and it's like the hand tightens. We're over and against the world. And then you add to that a mask. You know, my friends, we're meant to touch. We're meant to hug. We're meant to hold. That's what it means to be human. To be in relationship. And so the question becomes, how do we rise above the mask? We should wear the mask. How do we rise above the mask? Are we able to be someone whose hand is open to the other? Open. Not cut off. To do that will take work. An open hand. The second counterpoint, to use a gospel or a scriptural image, heart of stone versus heart of love. Heart of stone versus heart of love. As we carry this temptation of the pandemic forward, as we carry this tendency to withdraw, it is not surprising that we could experience anger, fatigue, ennui, and that leaves us with our heart not beating as it's meant. What we need is empathy. The ability to allow our heart to reach out and feel what the other is feeling. Empathy. Feeling with the other. We all know someone, or have met someone, who, by way of this example, they say to you, "How are you doing?" And you say back, "Oh, not so well. I've been diagnosed with cancer." And they say, "Oh, yeah, I've been there. I was told this morning my oil filter needed changing." No empathy. No feeling. No engagement. So what we need to be able to multiply loaves and fishes, to multiply love in the world, is not a heart of stone, but a heart of love. The final counterpoint for us to consider is walking alone or walking together. It was almost a year ago that I had my knee replaced. And you're all supposed to say, "Boy, you really look good for an old man with a new knee," Thank you, I appreciate that. But, I went into it with the typical male type determination. I'm going to beat this thing. I'm not going to be defined by it. I'm going to be up and walking faster than any, blah, 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 blah. So that was sort of my, well, we're just going to go beat it attitude. And I was very unfortunate. My sister came and spent the first 10 days with me. And anybody here that's in the knee replacement club knows that critical to success is moving. And so walking is critically important. So Kathy and I got in a routine. It was 4 or 5 times a day go for a walk, and each time try to extend the distance. So she gets in the cab and leaves, and I'm standing at the front door thinking, okay, big guy, the streets in the neighborhood I'm in are not level. There's no sidewalk. So, I'm going to go out walking on that? I mean, I do dumb things, but I knew that really would be dumb. So I'm pondering that. I love that word. Ponder. I was pondering that when the doorbell rang. And there were 5 neighbors. And what they came to say was they had seen my sister and I walking, and they knew she had left. And that it wouldn't be good for me to walk alone. So they wanted me to know that they would be there to walk with me. Walk with me. Walk alone or walk together. Walking together, Pope Francis describes as accompaniment. The ability to be with the other as other. In their beauty, their uniqueness, their strangeness, whatever. Walking with the other. So I offer those 3 counterpoints, my friends, to open up our minds and our hearts to consider, can we, with God's grace, become the vehicle for the multiplication of the loaves and fishes of this day? Can we be the vehicle for the multiplication of God's love in the world? Can we be a people of an open hand, a warm heart, and gentle accompaniment? Because if in the midst of all this that wants to pull us in alone behind a mask, if we can do that, how much better a space this will be. And why will we be able to do it? Because in a few moments we will go to the table with bread and wine, and the Lord Jesus will come and be present, body and blood, to feed us. To feed us. So that we can be the body and blood of Christ in the world. We can multiply loaves and fishes. Let the church say,